All right, good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Northside Board of Trustees. Before calling this meeting to order, the board would like to take just a moment to briefly review some of the rules for conducting our meeting. The order of business for this meeting is set out in the agenda. One item that you may notice on the agenda is consent agenda. This item includes items that are considered routine or of a reoccurring nature. All the items listed under the consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion. If there is a consent agenda item which anyone here would like to address, please sign up to speak to that item, and we will pull it from the consent motion and discuss it separately. The purpose of our meeting is to conduct board business, and for that reason, it is held in public. It is not a public forum, however, and we do provide the opportunity for audience participation. If there is anyone who would like to address the board during an agenda item or citizens to be heard portion of the agenda, we ask that you please register on the sign-up sheet located at the entrance of the boardroom. This is so we do not overlook anyone who would like to speak to the board. We will review the rules for addressing the board later in the meeting. Is there anyone here who would like to sign up to an agenda item and has not done so? All right, the meeting will then be officially called to order. Please stand as Trustee Medina leads us in the invocation and pledges of allegiance.
Almighty and merciful God, we ask you for your guidance and blessing upon this board, students, parents, patrons, teachers, and administrators, as we are assembled here this evening in the common pursuit of this great nation's wealth, our children. Amen.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right. Go ahead and start out with the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Harrell, members of the board. Just a few things to report as it is July. Summer programs are wrapping up. I got the opportunity after graduation to visit some of our summer programs and really pleased with what I saw, and also very thankful to teachers and counselors and administrators, custodians and instructional assistants, our transportation department that make summer school for so many of our students work and work well. So just want to put out a word of thanks to those who really help us keep our summer programs of high quality and running efficiently. I want to thank the board for the progress we're making on budgeting with our compensation package approved last week. We're into the last turn of the budgeting process that starts very early in the calendar here and goes through August. But good progress has been made. We'll bring for the board's consideration tonight the health insurance program for the 2020 calendar year. That's a significant portion of our budget. And after that, we will be really just putting finishing touches on the rest of the budget, and we'll meet next week in the first of our kind of budget finalization processes. I want to let the board know that several of the cabinet folks went and visited at UTSA with some UTSA staff. Dr. Jordan was there for sure. Mr. San Miguel was there, and we're furthering our conversation with UTSA around a teaching magnet type program where at least some of the students would be physically at UTSA and enrolled in dual credit courses at UTSA. So an exciting meeting and something that we're really looking forward to. Had a very productive meeting with them here recently, so feeling very good about that. So it is the end of July, and therefore it is time to talk about back-to-school events, which are really around the corner. So literally next week, we'll welcome over 2,000 people to our Leadership Institute, a two-day professional development that we host early in the school year. Athletics and our Engagement Academy is the first week of August. We'll welcome our new teachers in the second week of August, and then, of course, convocations occur in the third week of August. So we are getting ready to do the back-to-school kickoff here very, very quickly. And Video or no? Did we decide no? Okay, thanks, Barry. All right, so that concludes Superintendent's report. Dr. Harrell?
Great, thank you very much. Board members' reports. Are there any board members who would like to share at this time? Ms. Freeman?
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. Yes, the summer has seemed to just flown by. Just a few points. We had a TASB Board of Directors meeting this past weekend, and the Advocacy Institute stipend, I think, Carol, you were able to get that stipend last year. The applications have gone out for the advocacy stipend, and frequently we do have somebody from this board that has gone. So if you're interested, we could probably talk amongst ourselves. Only one person can get the stipend. Of course, anybody can choose to go with, well, I think we need to get board approval for the Advocacy Institute, but it is in, it's always in Washington, D.C. Also, this happens to be the 30th consecutive year that TASB has had 100% membership from all the school districts in the state. And so for that, any school district who has a member or a delegate at the delegate assembly will be entered into a drawing, and 30 school boards will be selected right there at the delegate assembly meeting, and they will get free registration for all the members that attended that particular, this upcoming TASB conference. So the district would be reimbursed for all attendees from that school district. A couple other things, the TASB school media, the social media campaign that they ran during this last legislative session, there were 62,480 messages to legislatures that were generated from the TASB social media campaign, which was twice as many as the previous session. So that was rather successful, and hopefully that made a difference in this session. Also, to my fellow board members, don't forget to use your credit from last year. Since we had a member at the delegate assembly last year, you're able to take a course from the Online Learning Center for free and then get credit for that. Thank you, Dr. Harrell.
Thank you very much. And regarding the advocacy, I would say it would be nice if 2 people went from Northside. I went last year, and a district our size with our needs looks very different than a small district, a rural district. And so it would have just helped to have kind of power in a partner, and also bounce off ideas that pertain to Northside. So thank you. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. Yeah, no, I just wanted to make a quick mention. There was an event this weekend having to do with a partnership with the Joffrey Ballet there at Vernon High School. And we have had this partnership for several years now, where the Joffrey Ballet comes in and offers classes and master classes to our teachers. And this year was another year, and just wanted to say a thank you to those involved in the fine arts, or having to do with that class for our students and our teachers. So it went very well. From my understanding, it was a big success, and it continues to be a big success, and it just really exposes all our dance students and teachers to the professional company like the Joffrey Ballet. So just wanted to give a shout out on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. Any other trustees? We're good. I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank all the trustees for conducting the board reorganization last Tuesday so that all of us could be in attendance. I know the summer months are always a challenge because of vacations, and I happen to have been on vacation the week of the traditional or typical board reorganization for this next year. And so, and then Ms. Reed was going to be on vacation this week, so that's why we did it last week. And so I thank all of you, and ask for your patience with any goofs tonight. So anyway, thank you. And Thursday night, I know we have some parents in our audience today, but I would want to highly recommend and encourage parents and grandparents, so I'll be there, to attend the Championship Parenting Evening with Carrie Casey. And it's free. It's at the Northside Sports Gym, and it's from 7 to 8:30. And so a dynamite presentation. And so I'm looking forward to learning some new things and laughing along the way. And then just one other thing, we had the passing of Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens this past week, and he actually was here in 2005 and was very proud that there was a high school named for him, and it was mentioned in one of his memoirs. So anyway, just to honor him and his family in our thoughts. So anybody else? Thank you. Oh, and Katie and Melissa will not make it tonight. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, Ms. Reed and Ms. Chumley are not able to make it here tonight, so thank you for reminding me that. So that's how it works. You pass notes down this way? Okay, okay. I thought there's more techie way. I was gonna look at my text messages. Okay, all right, thank you. Old school, I love it. Okay, so there are no recognitions and no reports, so we'll move to consent agenda. Are there any trustees who would like to have anything pulled or discuss something further before we entertain a motion? Okay, hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as is?
Yeah, I'll move approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second? Okay, Mr. Medina, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Ayes have it. So thank you. We will move on now to citizens to be heard. And let me find that little script. Oh, we don't have any? Oh, okay. We don't have any. Yay. Well, not yay, but that's good. It makes moving along, okay. Curriculum and instruction. Dr. Woods, did you want to address this?
Yes, ma'am, Dr. Harrell and members of the board. If we could, staff would request a little bit more time before we make this presentation, so we'd ask for a delay. We'll come back in the August meeting and make a presentation.
Okay, thank you. Nothing with facilities and operations. We'll move on to business and finance agreement between Northside Booster Association and Northside ISD. Mr. Rastellini.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. This evening, this is an annual presentation that we make to the board for approval. It's the agreement that we have with the Northside Booster Association, also known as the NBA. I do want to mention in this year's contract, we are recommending that the district fee actually be lowered from 12.5% to 10%. That makes a very minimal impact in the district's revenue budget. So we felt like that was an appropriate adjustment to make. That will actually generate about a little over $60,000 going back into the particular clubs that the NBA does support. Also, there are some recommended concession pricing adjustments for next year. Those adjustments we did review with the Finance Committee. They were limited to 50-cent increases for the most part. I think there was one item that actually increased a little bit higher than that, but that does keep it, the profit margins in line with other products, and certainly we recommended those back to the Booster Club, and they appear acceptable with those changes. With that, I would recommend that the board consider approval of the concession agreement for 1920 as presented.
Okay, is there any discussion? And Mr. Lopez, you're in charge of you led the Finance Committee
Yes.
when this was discussed? Any comments?
No, I mean, a lot of what we discussed was really just the keeping of the trying to maintain our solid costs on the items that were brought in before. So it looked like we're doing a good job on doing that, and making sure that we work with the booster clubs, because that is their form of support and their organization. So I do make a motion that we approve item as recommended by David from the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right, so we will move on.
Opposed?
Opposed? Well, everybody said aye, so okay, opposed. All right, make note, thank you. All right, first reading of policy CCA, local, Mr. Restelli, oh, I'm sorry, ooh, a whopper. Okay, consideration and approval of an order authorizing and establishing a commercial paper program under which will be issued short-term obligations in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $100 million to provide interim financing to pay project costs for eligible projects for the district, delegating to certain district officials the authority to undertake action necessary and incidental to the effectuation of the purpose and the intent of this order, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Dr. Harwell. That pretty much, that captures everything in a nutshell.
Just trying to help here, sir.
You can tell an attorney wrote that for us.
Effectuation.
In simpler terms, what this is, again, this is something we've discussed with the Finance Committee on a couple occasions. But what this is a program that allows the district to conduct interim financing for our construction accounts. You might recall that in between the time we actually start spending dollars to where we sell the bonds to fund those projects, we actually do interim borrowing from ourselves. So this actually is a way for the district to access the what we call the commercial paper or short-term interim financing market. Just a couple things about it. As the order indicates, this is limited to $100 million. We don't typically borrow, you wouldn't borrow those dollars at $100 million increments. It's almost like a line of credit. So you would actually borrow monies to conduct your interim financing, and when you get to a certain maturity date, what happens is that's when you'll do your long-term financing. It does require some other mechanisms, some liquidity support. We have to guarantee those dollars to the investors, and there's certain fees that are incurred, and we've actually taken those into consideration. Also, the order does give us the ability to conduct the business at an administrative level, which is really not anything unusual. We do that now with our bond and other long-term financing needs. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that members of the board may have, and at this time, I would recommend the program to be approved as presented.
Any questions? Anything, Finance Committee Chair Lopez, would you like to offer?
Yeah, again, this was something that we brought forth through the committee, and so I recommend that we move for approval of this item as presented by David.
Second? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Now we'll go to the first reading of policy CCA, and it's for discussion only.
Thank you, Dr. Harrell. This policy, actually, the Finance Committee reviewed several policies. We have several recommendations that will be included with Mr. Galindo's update 113 that'll be coming to the board shortly. But this particular policy we wanted to pull out and go ahead and bring forward for first and second reading, and tonight is the first reading for discussion only. The reason for bringing this forward is this policy does address the debt program of the district, and since the board has now approved the commercial paper program, there are some items that we're putting in here that are needed in order for the district to conduct that business. So with that, I will go through the particular pages where we do have changes. There's on page 1, we're actually recommending adding district in front of facilities. It's just really a cleanup item. I don't think there was a whole lot of discussion to go one way or the other with that, but we feel that that change is appropriate. On page 2, you'll see right in the middle of the page on number 3, we are recommending we remove the language as it relates to advance refunding. You might remember a couple sessions back, this particular mechanism for school districts was removed. School districts no longer can do advance refunding, so this language is, for all practical purposes, not appropriate. So we're recommending that that be pulled out of this local policy. And then on page 3, this is where we affected changes as it relates to the commercial paper or short-term financing. You'll see at the very top of the page, this relates to the rate resets, and we're adding daily rate because that is an option in these programs. So we have daily rate, weekly rate, monthly rate. Again, this is just to make sure we cover all the options that are available to us. And then moving down the page to number 7, this is where we're recommending that we do incorporate the commercial paper note assurances or the commercial paper program as part of the capital program to again, to reduce the cost of borrowing, and it follows along with our goals and objectives of our debt service program. And then A, B, and C, those really are the parameters that are set by the board. The maximum maturity, I believe in the orders at 270 days, the maximum amount, and again, we're starting that amount at $100 million, and then the maximum interest rate, and those terms are also outlined in that order. I will tell you this evening, since we have adopted, there's for the new board officers that like to sign stuff, there's a whole lot of opportunity this evening, so that's all related to this particular issue. With that, since there is no action required this evening, I'll be happy to answer any particular questions about this policy.
Are there any questions? Any comments? Mr. Lopez?
No, at this time. No, at this time, no. It was just more for discussion and if anybody else had any.
All right, so,
I believe this will be brought up again in the next,
We're scheduling second reading for, I believe it's on consent
Okay.
for August.
for August. Thank you very much. All right, now we'll move to Human Resources and Health Insurance for 2020. Patty Hill.
Good evening, President Harrell, members of the board, Dr. Woods. With me tonight is Chris Rice, our Director of Benefits, who will bring information and recommendation for 2 human resources items related to employee benefits.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board, Dr. Woods. So we'll begin with what the agenda is for the presentation. And so what we're going to discuss tonight, and let me know if you have any questions along the way, is the NISD medical plan overview, along with the healthcare financing executive summary, with all the 2020 medical plan recommendations, the proposed cost-sharing model, and the open enrollment details. So this slide may look a little busy, but this is basically trying to outline to you that pretty much for the most part, we've been consistent with how many employees actually have our insurance. But also, the good thing about this upcoming year, the 2018, I want to point out, is the claims loss ratio of 84%. Ideally, insurance companies want it between 83 and 85, so we kind of hit the benchmark for that. And so that's one of the things I also wanted to point out. All right, next slide. This is just a list of our current plans. We are making no changes. The very first 3 on the left are your copay plans, and the 3 on the right are your high deductible plans.
Just a second, Chris.
Sure.
Can we go back to that just
Sure.
real quick? I just want to make a couple of editorial comments along the way. So one of the things that we've done in designing this particular health plan is to try to provide a fairly broad range of choices to employees, so that because you know that these plans really from left to right go from the most rich to kind of the least rich plans. Obviously, costs are associated with those, but so is the amount of coverage and the features in the plan. And so what we've tried to do is design a set of options that allows employees to consider their own health situation for themselves and their families, their own personal financial situation, and then pick an option that best matches that. So I have been asked in the past why so many choices, and that's the answer. That's the best answer to that question. Sorry, Chris.
That's okay. All right, here I want to point out to the board that for the most part, most of the plans are working ideally what we want to have them at the loss ratio, with the exception of still the richest plan still continues to perform poorly, with 2018 at a loss ratio of 122.7%. And what that really means is that for every dollar that we're paying into it, UHC is having to pay out $1.22 out of that. So that's what really is driving our plans to possibly see the increase in the plans.
Just another comment, sorry. Chris is right. If you look at the top in that 2018 box, which of course is the last full year for which we have data, all of the plans performed relatively well from a loss ratio standpoint, except for the richest plan. We did begin a year ago to try to financially incentivize folks to consider other plans, and that will continue for the 2020 calendar year.
And so what we did, this is the comparative analysis that Dr. Woods had requested regarding what we have currently, which is number one, the fully insured medical. Number two is the self-insured plan, and then number three is a combination. It's a fully insured plan with self-insured features within it. And when we've analyzed and looked at the analysis, if we were in any one of those three, the one that makes the most sense still is still the fully insured. It still costing the district the least amount of financial dollars for that.
Yeah, so this is, I want to add here a little bit. We've had some conversation in the last couple of years about continuing to study self-funding as a way to go. And so each spring, when we talk about what's going to happen for health insurance, what are the options for health insurance at the start of the next calendar year, the folks from Wortham really help us with an analysis of what would it have looked like if this were a self-funded plan. And this year they actually showed us a model of looking back and then a similar look forward, if you will, so that we could try to get an analysis and really understand whether or not that was in our financial best interest to self-insure. As Chris said, given the analysis that we did, we still are going to recommend option number one, staying as a fully insured plan for 2020.
Thank you.
Okay, and for this upcoming year, we negotiated with United Healthcare, and what we're looking at is a 5.8% increase. All current plans remain the same. All out-of-pocket remains the same. There are absolutely no changes other than the actual increase itself. And again, I want to point out that we are still going to do the 70-30 aggregate split for that with the employee and the north side. And then just to point out again, the Choice Plus is still the one that's underperforming by quite a bit. And then lastly is open enrollment. We try to go to as many campuses as possible, and so in this year we'll have 12 different site visits, 4 at the testing annex, 2 at Northside Activity Center, and then 6 high school campuses. And just so you know, we actually strategically place those campuses near where transportation or child nutrition or maintenance will be, so that way it allows more opportunity for everybody to come out and do open enrollment and get their questions answered. Flu shots are always available at all the open enrollment fairs. And then we always have both English and Spanish speakers to address any language barriers. Any questions?
If I can, just real quick, Bobby, if that's okay. Just want to remind the board, I mentioned this briefly last week when we were talking about compensation in House Bill 3. Certainly House Bill $3 could be used to apply to any benefit, which would include health insurance. In the presentation last week that we showed you last week, we chose not to do that. So there is for health insurance these days, a relatively modest increase proposed for 2020 at 5.8%. The district will continue to pay 70% of the total healthcare insurance plan, which is nearing a $100 million budget item for Northside. And the increase year over year, which to the district is about $3 million, And that has been budgeted for separately and completely outside of the House Bill 3 element. I just wanted to be clear about that.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Blunt.
Yeah, sorry, just one quick question. I know we talked about it in past years, but on the claim loss ratio, why is it driving to other plans that actually help out on that cost element? Is it a shift of cost or what?
So in essence, when you look at the entire package, you just don't look at the 5 best plans that are doing well. You have to look at the overall structure. And so even if you have 3 plans and one of those plans is underperforming, it actually impacts all the plans.
Right. Okay. But why does it, I'm just curious, and maybe it's too, let me see if I can ask it. Why does that work for somebody to shift over plans? They're picking up more of the cost, or why does it work mathematically?
Because they're more likely picking up more of the cost.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Okay, was this in Finance Committee, Mr. Lopez? Was there any discussion or anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, this was presented in Finance Committee, and I just want to thank, David and the Worthington Group. I'd like to thank them for being able to give us a good, broad picture of our insurance benefits, especially how it divides up amongst our employees. And I think that's really important for us to see that, as well as also having an option, should the event ever come, or looking at being self-funded. Those are always good options, and I really like the fact that we're able to look at that and be able to say, hey, no, we don't enter it, or yes, we do, or just things like that. Having that flexibility is a good thing for us as a board or as a district. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and I move that we approve the insurance for 2020, health insurance package for 2020, as recommended by.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, the ayes have it. So we have a health insurance plan for 2020. Thank you very much. Thank you, staff.
Chris, are you going to walk through the policy or?
That is
The
correct.
first reading
The first
policy?
reading,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
correct,
No,
for
that's okay.
DC local.
I do have one question.
Sure.
How many years have we had, has Northside had United now?
Since 2016,
So this will be the
the
4th year.
4th year.
It's pretty good for,
We're in year 4,
19.
aren't
We're
we?
going,
16.
we're going into the 5th year.
Yeah, this would be the
Wow.
start of year
Yes.
5.
Yes.
2020 would be the
I've been
year
sick
5.
so long, I can't remember.
I think it's always good to, I know that anytime we've switched, sometimes there's a lot of anxiety about who's in network, who's out of network, and all of that. So I think it's a good thing for us, our staff, to
It
be able
is.
to keep the same company. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Freeman. All right, now we are moving to first reading.
That is correct.
Okay.
For policy, local policy DEC. And so I'm just going to flip through the pages to show you where the changes are. So I'm at page 2 of 9. And so where it says absence reporting system, that program that's in there currently, we actually don't have. We haven't had it for quite a long time. So what we want to do, instead of putting the specific program that we have, because we've already changed the name at least twice already since I've been here. So we want to make that into a generic term by just putting the absence reporting system versus the actual specific program that we're using. So that's the change I'm proposing for that. Going to page 4. Towards the top where it says recording, that's, again, we just want to take that name out and just put absence reporting system. That's all we're trying to do for that.
Okay.
And then page 5 is it's under temporary disability leave. It should really only be for full-time employees, and so we get a lot of part-time employees that attempt to do temporary disability leave. And then also the way it's currently worded in our policy, people have been using it and basically abusing it as if it was intermittent leave, and that's not its intended purpose. So the reality is, it should only be utilized once per our calendar year, which is July 1st to June 30th, before it's exhausted. And then on page 6, towards the bottom where it says medical certification, I don't know why we use more than 3 days. Because when we had the flu season a couple years ago, that means everybody's required to apply for the FMLA, so it makes no sense knowing that if you have the flu season, you're going to be out for at least a week. Plus, the district also gives 5 days for that too. So we just thought it made more sense to make it more than 5 days. And the caveat to that is in the bullet number 2 underneath it, that supervisor can still ask for any type of documentation from the doctor if they suspect some wrongdoing by the employee. And then lastly, on page 7, now that we've divided both benefits and risk management towards the bottom, it's benefits or risk management, not benefits and risk management. So that's all we're doing is dividing it out. And that's all I have.
That's first reading.
Okay. Any discussion, questions? All right, that was first reading, so we'll see you in August?
Yep, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you all.
sorry, Mr. Lopez?
And I'm sorry, I don't know, what is the absence reporting system? Is that a program or is that?
It is a program. So when I first started, we had SmartFind Express. They got bought out. It's constantly getting bought out. So this time it's now absence management system.
And how does that work?
So basically, if you go into our Northside employee links, they log into there and they report their absence.
Oh, okay.
Software.
Software.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, anything else? All right, thank
right,
you
thank
very
you.
much. All right, so technology, no items, administration, no items. Superintendent, Dr. Woods.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Harrell, in your blue folder at your place, we've got a list of upcoming agenda items. Just to remind the board, we do have a called meeting with regard to a budget compliance issue next week, next Tuesday. Our next meeting after that will be August the 20th. That's the actual public hearing on the budget and proposed tax rate, and then obviously the monthly meeting at the end of August. Also in your folder are some RSVPs that Ms. McGee needs to upcoming events, including summer graduation and some other items. If you can get that to her. And then 2019 convocations as well, so that we know who's available for each of the 6 convocation meetings. I know Dr. Harrell needs to ask folks to make remarks on behalf of the board at those meetings. And then finally, there's the list of trustee contact information. If you could just verify that that's accurate for us, that would be great. And then I think Mr. Pettis has also provided you with a parking pass for the various and sundry events you will soon be attending as school gets up and running. And that's it for future items, Dr. Harrell.
All right.
If we could just get those RSVPs, and I know for you, the convocation material tonight, that'd be great.
Thank you very much. Yes, sir. All right, so without anything else, we will move into executive session. It is 7:37. All right, wow, pretty good. I'm supposed to read something.
See if there's something. If not, we can just read the parts of the government code.
You're right, there is something. No?
Well, I think then let's just say at 7:38, we'll move into executive session under government code sections.
Right. Okay.
We'll type up both.
All right, at 7:37, we are moving into executive session, and it will be held on any or all subjects and purposes permitted by sections 551.071, 551.072, 73, 74, 76, 82, and 84 of the government code, the open meetings law. Thank you. The Board of Trustees on July 23rd, 2019, beginning at 7:46, will convene an open meeting. Action will take place on the following items. 46, appointment of principal at Bladman, appointment of principal of Helotes, elementary appointment of middle school magnet school dean, appointment of vice principal at Forester Elementary School. Do I hear any motions? All right, Mr. Lopez? Or is that Ms. Freeman?
Dr. Harrell, I move that we approve the administrative appointments as discussed in executive session.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, so we have approved all those positions. And now, the board will end our meeting at 9:47. 8:47. 7:47.